Welcome back to Real Talk with Chuck and Pam. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We appreciate you listening. I know we don't do this every single week, and sometimes that's my fault because I forget and I don't show up for a Zoom meeting. Sorry, Chuck, you're very forgiving.
No problem.
So thank you, everyone. We've got 4 movies plus a series to review today for everyone, trying to hit everything that we possibly can. Things are coming fast and furiously. Thankfully, not the movie, but movies are coming fast and furiously at us beginning now, really, and things are going to pick up just because we are starting to be on the cusp of award season. And we're going to start off with His Three Daughters. And that's something that is opening on Netflix. Do you know, was this a movie that opened in theaters at all, Chuck?
I do not think so, no.
Okay, that kind of surprises me. This is a movie that feels like a play. And I tend to gravitate toward those. I find them to be a little bit more rich in character and not depend so much on production value. They're just really focused on who these people are. And who we have are 3 sisters. We've got Carrie Coon, who portrays Katie. Try and say that 5 times real fast. Rachel is portrayed by Natasha Lyonne, and Christina is portrayed by Elizabeth Olsen. They have all been summoned to the New York City apartment where their father and Rachel reside. Dad is dying. He's in hospice care. And these 3 sisters could not be any more unalike. They are, you would never even know that they were sisters. They look different, they sound different, their personalities are incredibly different. And they come together and you see that immediately. We meet Katie, who's uptight. She is a type A personality. She's inflexible, judgmental, that control freak nature in her. And she is the complete opposite of both Christina and Rachel. Rachel is on the other end of the spectrum. She gets high from morning till night. She takes everything with stride. And she's been caring for Dad, and she's been carrying that burden, if you will, of caring for Dad while he's been sick. And then we've got Elizabeth Olsen, and her character is Christina. And I'm going to guess she's the middle child. I believe that she is. She's
Yes.
the she's the mediator and the peacemaker, and you can see that she's a gentle soul, and she loves her father, and she cherishes memories. But she's got guilt for everything that she does because she just can't help everybody enough, including herself. Um, so these 3 sisters are instructed as to what might or might not happen as their father goes through the process of passing away. We start to understand each of their individual relationships with Dad, as well as among the 3 sisters themselves. I found it really beautiful in how they really don't get along at all, but you know how close they were as youngsters. And they just allude to that a little bit with that gibberish, their own little language that they spoke. And I loved that. The 3 of them work through issues that they've had with each other and with their father, especially as they start to write that obituary, something that's really hard to do. They're writing it before he's even passed away. It really tells about their own relationships and their memories of their father, and maybe things weren't as good as they thought, or maybe they were a little better. And then we enter that 3rd act. And Chuck, this is where I want you to chime in because I really liked that 3rd act and that surreal aspect. Now, if you haven't seen the movie, which you couldn't have because it's not out yet, it comes out on Friday. I want you to put earmuffs on or fast forward a little bit because we're going to give away a few spoilers as we talk about this. Chuck?
What about it?
You said
That was the biggest problem I had with the film. And I
it,
was hoping you would explain it to me
okay.
because I felt as though it started out as a very, very meaningful moment and then it turned cheap. And I was really kind of pissed off at it, quite frankly.
Okay.
And
And
if
I
you could explain it to me, I would be, I'm not the sharpest tack in the box, so just explain it to me.
It was a surreal moment. It didn't happen. We were
Right.
in
But all 3 of these women experience the surreal moment at the same time.
I
And
don't think any of them experienced the surreal moment at all. I think we were in the mind of Dad, and what he really wanted is for his children to get along. He has regrets, and his children are watching him pass. I watched my mom pass away. She had what was called morbid lucidity, and she was aware and with it for a very, very short period of time. And I think that that's what they're getting at, is that morbid lucidity, but I don't think those girls experienced it. I think that's something that happened in his head.
okay, okay.
Okay, all right. I loved it.
It just seemed cheap to me because then all of a sudden, these three women are at peace. And all is well, and understanding is, achieved, and everything's, peachy keen jelly bean.
For that
It-
moment, for that moment, yeah.
after that moment, everything's fine. And
Uh,
it's like, wait a second, that's way too easy. Okay,
okay, okay. I I'm gonna relate this to another personal experience. My father-in-law passed away. He had 5 children. These 5 children are a lot like these 3 daughters. They couldn't be, they're not alike at all. None of them have any similarities. Yet when it came to the time of him passing and us getting together for the funeral, they were as tight could be. Are we tight now? Nope. That just dissipated as soon as the events, if you will, were over. So I feel like that's what happened here. Things are going to go back to normal, to their normal, but they had this moment of bonding and remembering who they are. I thought it was beautiful.
I thought it was beautiful up until that moment. I mean, I liked it. The performances are great. There's no question about that. I thought the writing was spot on. But I just felt, I don't know.
Okay.
It ruined it for me. It's like it was cutesy. It just didn't fit for me. I'm kind of dense sometimes. So
No, I think, everyone's experience, especially with this topic matter, is different. And I can see how it was jarring to me too. Like, whoa, wait, what? Oh, okay. And I was fine with that. Um, we didn't even get to meet Dad until, God, what, the last 20 minutes, maybe 15, 20 minutes. I didn't think we were going to meet him at all. And I liked that. And I would have been fine with not meeting him. I would have been fine without that scene as well, but I think that gave us a taste of who Dad was and how his daughters had him all wrong in some ways, you know? And then what does that tell us to do as parents ourselves and our relationship with our children? We need to talk more. We need to let them in on who we are, because a lot of times our kids just think we're mom and dad, and we're not. We're people, you know?
Mhm.
And I don't think they saw that in him, and that was a regret of his. I
Well,
loved it.
I'm glad you loved it. I'm glad you loved it. I didn't hate it. I liked
Right.
it. Gave it a positive review, but I didn't love it like you did. I'm glad you found it.
Okay. All right.
So,
All right. So what should we just go straight into the substance?
sure, because has so many similarities to what we just talked about.
Oh, so similar. Chuck, take this one away while I drink my badass chai tea latte.
Okay. The substance has been getting a lot of press after coming out of the Cannes Film Festival, where it was warmly received and inexplicably won the award for Best Screenplay, Cannes Film Festival. That the director is a French woman may have had something to do with that.
You think?
I
Really?
think.
Okay.
Now, despite that opening, I want to say up front that I liked this film until the last 20 minutes. But overall, I thought that it had a lot to say and did it in a very daring way. What it has to say is pretty obvious. I mean, I don't think there's any
So
big
obvious.
relations here, but it's upfront about it being obvious.
Oh, it's up front, all right.
But again, it seems as though this issue of sexism, issues of racism, issues of prejudice we can't stay them enough because they continue. And so even though it is obvious, obviously this issue still is present and needs to be examined. And we're talking about the issue of sexism in entertainment, which then, of course, spills over to sexism in society as well. Demi Moore plays Sparkle. Her name is Sparkle. What is her first name?
Elizabeth Sparkle.
Sparkle, Oscar-winning actress who has parlayed her fame into a fitness instructor, think Jane Fonda. She's got a TV show, a syndicated fitness show. Everyone tunes in. She's everyone's darling until she's not. Ratings are falling, and her boss, played by a gloriously over-the-top Dennis Quaid, who convinced me that if they ever needed someone to play an older version of the Joker, he could do it.
He could, couldn't he?
Yeah, after seeing him here. Dumps her and says, we're going to get someone younger. Well, Sparkle is reeling from this. She gets into a car wreck. She ends up in the hospital, and some guy says, hey, you're a good candidate for this program. If you ever want to tap into your younger self, this is what you should call this number. Desperate, she calls this number, and she is told that if she wants to open up something or become younger, all she has to do is come pick up this stuff and submit to this program. By the way, one of my favorite parts was her going to that shitty place where she has to pick up the substance. I thought that was brilliant. I mean, it's the worst place, the spray painted address.
Well, and then that door didn't go all the way up, and she's
That's
got a
all-
beautiful pair of pants and a coat. I'm like,
Right.
oh, she's gonna get them all yucked up, bending down to get through that door.
But again, that's how desperate she is. She injects herself with this substance, and before you know it, she gives birth, literally, through her back, which splits open to a younger version of herself who is named Sue, played by Margaret Qualley. And the whole situation is this. Sue can be around for 7 days, while Elizabeth remains in some sort of coma-like stasis for 7 days. Then after 7 days go, they have to switch places. Elizabeth is allowed to roam around, and Sue is allowed then to rest. You cannot break this cycle. You cannot. Well, of course, the cycle does get broken to horrific results as Sue, being young and vain and not too bright, decides she's going to futz with the whole procedure and stays around longer than she should, drawing what looks to be spinal fluid from Elizabeth in order to sustain past 7 days. This has horrible effects on Elizabeth, and before you know it, we see her become an embodiment of the portrait of Dorian Gray. Her parts of her body start to wither and age, and of course, she becomes incredibly resentful of this younger version of herself, and things get insane. Like I say, I really like this movie up until the last 20 minutes, in which it becomes just a bloodbath, quite literally, a bloodbath, in which the director, Claire Fauget, just goes over the top in making her point. As I say, the point of this film is very obvious, but and she just goes too far. I really did like, though, how my favorite scene in the movie is when Demi is getting ready for a date. She's getting ready for a date. She runs into an old guy from grade school. She would never give this guy the time of day. He gives her number, but she's so desperate for attention. She agrees to meet him. She goes in front of the mirror. She looks at herself. She's beautiful. We see her as beautiful. But then she starts to change her makeup. And then she walks away, and then she notices a picture of her younger self with, the boobs that are just right. Then she goes back and she changes her outfit. Then she messes with her makeup. She's just not, it becomes this manic thing with her. And she's just not, she doesn't see what's in front of her. All she sees are the flaws. She magnifies the flaws. And, so many of us do that, and it's all about self-esteem, how her self-esteem is tattered and worn and destroyed away by this. And I thought it was a pretty daring performance by Moore. I mean, I've never thought of her as an actress of any, weight, but here, man, she was perfect. I felt for her. I really felt for this woman who her entire existence is just being sucked away. A movie that's going to cause a lot of controversy or conversation. I don't know if it's going to catch on at all. I don't know if it's going to be a big hit. I kind of doubt it. But I do hope she gets some sort of recognition because I thought she was just great.
Okay. You know, I can't recommend this movie. However, I think that, you pointed out a lot of the attributes that are very good about it. The fact that it does call attention to, and we chatted on the way home from seeing this movie, and Chuck had said that the film industry or entertainment industry eats away at you, and literally and figuratively in this movie. And everything is very pretty over the head. I mean, it's nothing is covert. Everything is very overt.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that it was it trying to be a 70s B movie? Is that what it was trying to be? Because it was.
In certain respects, yes.
Um, I think that the some of the visual stuff, like when she had to do the switch or when she was giving birth to herself out of her back, some of the visual stuff there, and I'm not talking about special effects, I'm talking about the like the psychedelic stuff that happened. I'm like, where am I? Okay, this is just a little too out there, a little too hippy dippy for me, maybe.
You know,
Um,
it's funny you mentioned that because I just read the New York Times review.
okay.
And they talked about the fact that you cannot get a handle on what time period it is.
Yeah.
And the critic felt that that was overt to point out the fact that this problem has been around forever,
Okay.
has plagued women, throughout time, and has only been exacerbated, of course, by movies, film, TV, and everything. So they picked up on what you're talking about as well, not being able to get a handle on time or place, but they felt that that was done on purpose.
Okay. And I never want to see anybody's boobs or butt again for a long time. I really got my fill of the boobs and the butts. It was just a little bit too much for me.
Well,
Um,
but that was the point.
well, do I have to see it all the time?
That was the point.
In my
Yeah.
face, in my face. I mean, up close.
Well,
I don't know. It was too much for me. So,
yeah, but I think that's a reflection of the media itself. It's always there. It's always there. And I think that was the point. And I'm not disagreeing with you at all, but I think that was the point behind it. You know about the male gaze, of course,
mhm,
that discussion of that, and that certainly is front and center.
oh yeah. And Dennis Quaid saying, and you said his name was Harvey in the movie.
Yes, there you go.
That one slipped by me. And him saying something about smile, you look prettier when you smile, or pretty girls should smile, or I mean, you can't tell me there's not one woman out there that hasn't heard smile, you look so much prettier when you smile. Fuck you.
Mhm.
So that kind of, I mean, it definitely called attention to that kind of stuff. I would like to have seen this original concept and screenplay redone, rewritten by somebody else, by a different director. I would like to have seen it done in a different way. Um, I don't, I think it could have been smarter. I think it could have been less in your face and been a little bit more appealing to a wider audience. This is not going to be enjoyable for a lot of people. And like you said, the last half hour, it's all just a literal bloodbath.
I kept thinking what David Cronenberg would have done with this.
Okay, good. Yeah.
That's the guy,
That is, I agree. I would like to have seen this redone then in somebody else's hands.
Yeah.
But given that and the auditory bombardment that was just way too much for me at times, just the screeching and the high pitched stuff and the dissonant music that took place put me on edge. I know that's what it's supposed to do, but with my auditory system, I want to beeline it out of there if I hear that. The sound effects, though, were incredible. Incredible. Every single thing that happened it was almost as if there were no other sounds taking place except for Demi Moore's head clunking on the bathroom floor, or yeah, or any the teeth being pulled out, and the sucking sound that it made, and the dripping sound that the spinal fluid made as it was being pulled out of Demi
Oh,
Moore, and then the pus that was in her infected spine, and what that made as it was being injected or the syringe was going into it. The sounds were incredible.
well,
Visually, it was astounding as well because some of those effects, and you think
yeah,
of
they're
this
cruel.
being being like kind of a low budget movie in my head because I'm thinking B movie here. And some of the things were real low budget feeling. But some of the things like cinematically, like that camera angle and all those close-ups
Yeah.
and, going from bottom to top and looking up, and why are we looking from that aspect? I mean, there's a lot going on here that's worth a conversation. But like I said, I can't recommend it because I don't think it's going to be something that's going to be enjoyable. I think that's something that maybe someone who's a cinephile is going to want to take a look at and discuss, like we're doing, maybe even more in depth, to take a look at those kind of things, like the sound effects and how they created those, and why the camera angles were the way they were, and how, like, Dennis Quaid came into the bathroom and you think that the camera is right at the flusher of the urinal because all we can see is his nose and his eyes, and oh my God, the smacking and the chomping. You know how I am about people eating with their mouth open, and Dennis Quaid is sucking prawns out of the shell with the head still on, and batter and goo is coming out of his mouth. I almost dry heaved in the chair.
I have to say that during a lot of the movie, after I figured out what was going on, I was laughing.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, I thought it was just the dark humor is what I think makes a lot of it palpable,
Okay.
at least for me,
Okay.
my sense of humor at times.
A little strange.
But again, not for all tastes, definitely. But horror aficionados and, like you say, film buffs, check it out. And also, I got to say, got new respect for Demi Moore.
Yeah, she was pretty bold in taking this part. I could never have had the chutzpah to do that. I could never have done what she did.
Well, I agree.
So there you have that one. That is in theaters now. Another movie that is out. Did you get a chance to see The Mistake?
I did not.
You did not. Well, let me tell you about The Mistake. It's an interesting story. I don't believe it's based on reality, but I'm sure it happens all the time because we're talking about a mistake that is made. Actually, it's called A Mistake, not The Mistake. Elizabeth Banks plays an emergency room doctor, Liz Taylor, which I thought was an interesting choice of character names.
Oh,
Um, and she has a resident working under her, and together this woman comes into the emergency room. She's got X, Y, and Z symptoms. They diagnose it as being some sort of an infection. And so emergency surgery is required. They go into the OR, and this intern, this resident, is doing the surgery under Dr. Taylor's supervision. Well, things go wrong, as you can imagine.
is a
And
mistake made?
I'm sorry,
Is a mistake made?
there is a mistake that is made, and it's under the supervision, though, of Dr. Taylor. So the woman seems to be fine. They recover from this huge error, and unfortunately, the woman does pass away. So now we've got parents talking to social media, parents talking to the powers that be, and this is a whole political game within a hospital. Politics within a hospital are just as nasty as they are anywhere else. And we see what happens when life and death decisions are made in split seconds. And we also see what happens when we go to a teaching hospital and you have to learn somewhere. This is all about guilt and what happens when you are accused of doing something. You question your skills, you question what's happening. You see who's on your side and who's not. And Elizabeth Banks has an amazing performance as this very conflicted yet confident doctor who tries to help teach this intern resident how to deal with situations like this. They happen all the time. It's a sad situation, and we get to see both sides of the coin. And I think that's what I really liked about this story, is that we saw the story from her perspective. We saw the story from the the admin people in the hospital, and we also see it from the friends and family of the girl that was lost, the young woman that was lost, and why. And then we also learn that communication is truly key And that could have saved them a whole lot of problem that the entire movie is about. It's really quite eloquently done. The only issue I had with the movie was Elizabeth Banks was trying to have a British accent, and she didn't do a very good job. So if you can't do a good accent, don't do a good accent. Just be American. It's okay.
Wouldn't that have made it even more interesting as well?
But she's not from the UK,
Yeah,
and she's
like
from
an
the US.
outsider of some sort.
Yeah, could be a whole lot more interesting, and it could actually bring in a whole new set of liability issues and legal shit, you know?
Mhm.
Um,
Interesting.
so
Interesting.
it's a good movie. I recommend seeing it, and I also recommend not going to a teaching hospital if you get into a car accident in July, because that's when the residency programs start. Don't get a fresh one.
I didn't realize there was such a thing as teaching hospitals.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. That's like Michael Reese Hospital in Chicago. That's where Chris did his residency. Cook County was a teaching hospital. Northwestern University Hospital is a teaching hospital.
Hmm.
Rush, any place that has a medical program generally has an associated residency program along with it.
Interesting.
Yep.
All right.
So think about that.
I'll keep that in mind.
Drive safely in July.
Mhm.
You are watching, I think it's is it, which verse is it? Which universe?
DC.
Okay, you're watching some DC thing. Tell us about that.
It's some DC thing. Okay. The Penguin. Yes, a DC thing. Miniseries starting on HBO Max tonight,
Ah,
starring the incredible Colin Farrell as Oswald Cobb, aka the Penguin, in the Batman universe. Now, this is the Batman universe that started with the Robert Pattinson film, directed by Matt Reeves. And in that movie, we do see Farrell as the Penguin. And at the end of that movie, I'm sure you remember quite well, Pam.
oh yeah, I'll let you take this though. You go for it.
Okay, if you need to add any details, you just chime in.
I got confidence in you. You go.
Okay. The Riddler, of course, blew up the seawall surrounding, protecting Gotham, which flooded the slums and the worst parts of the town, destroying half of the city. And that's where this series picks up, as we see the Penguin, who owned the Iceberg Lounge.
Oh yeah.
What?
Yeah. I'm just confirming what you know.
Trying to get his feet under him. He senses there's a vacuum in the criminal hierarchy of Gotham after this, and he starts to make moves in order to move up the ladder. We also get a chance to meet a new favorite character of mine. Falcone is her name, and she is the daughter of Carmine Falcone, who was played by John Turturro in the first film. Sophia Falcone, played by Kristen Milotti. I did not know her at all except from Palm Springs, that
Okay.
that she
Oh
had made
yeah.
with Andy Samberg a couple
Okay.
years. She too, now that her dad is gone, she is trying to manipulate things so that she rises in power too. The series ends up playing out like a chess game. And everyone's just manipulating people, telling lies, going behind other people's backs in order to position themselves to take over Gotham. There are double crosses. There are, multiple twists along the way. This one, though, doesn't require that you saw Batman to start it.
Oh, okay.
And there's not a superhero in sight. There's not a cape in sight. I mean,
Woohoo.
this could stand alone as just its own gangster type epic.
Oh,
It
cool.
eschews the whole superhero mentality. It's very, very grounded. Uh, and as such, we see a lot of flashbacks to find out this is really a psychological portrait as we see how Oswald becomes the person he is. He's born with a club foot. So that necessitates that he walks the way he walks, and people call him a penguin because he waddles back and forth.
Aw.
He has two brothers who are normal, who he resents. He longs for his mother's love and recognition, which he cannot get.
Hmm.
Um, it's just all of this psychological stuff that we see that shapes him to be the person that he is. The first 4 episodes are a little slow, but that's because they're taking their time to do this. And we
Okay.
also see the same thing with Sophia. We see back flashbacks of her, and we see how she becomes the person she is. So really, it's an interesting portrait of criminal psychology, quite frankly. And it's very, very smart. It doesn't have the usual action stuff. It's not the usual superhero thing. I know you won't, but you may want to give an episode or two a chance because, like I say, it's not what you expect. And Farrell, you watch him in this getup that he's in, and it is absolutely astounding what he does in this makeup. You would never, ever know it is him. I mean, the makeup, you could say, does a lot of the work for him, but not in the way he moves, not in the way he talks, not in the expressions of his face. It's a full performance. And you just can't take your eyes off of him as he's going through this. I have to say, it was really gutsy at the end. I sympathized with him until the final moment. And he does something so reprehensible that he then becomes a true villain. And you see that he is beyond saving.
You
Truly.
sold me. You sold me.
He does something that shocked me. And I actually yelled no at the TV screen.
Oh my God.
So he is at that point, everything shifts at that point. Like I say, I felt sorry for him and then I hated his guts.
Wow.
So, starting on HBO tonight, like I say, I don't think there's an episode that's over an hour. You know, it's one of those where you get in and out and everything. So, you know, even if you're not a Batman fan and looking for some good TV, give it a shot. Like I say, you don't have to have seen the Batman to know what's going on.
Okay, so this is, can we watch everything? Like if I can't sleep at night, I binge watch stuff. Can I watch them all?
No,
Okay.
once a week.
Okay. And you said that's on Max, HBO Max or
HBO
Max?
Max.
Okay.
Though I think with you being, you know, who you are, I
Right.
think you have access to all 8 episodes as I do.
All right, I might just have to binge that. And since you mentioned that, I'm just going to real quickly mention one thing, one series that I binged really fast, and that is Chaos, K-A-O-S, on Netflix with Jeff Goldblum and a whole slew of other big actors. And it's all about Greek mythology, and he plays Zeus. And
I
he's
love that.
Oh, he is
I love
awesome
that.
as Zeus. And if
Yeah.
you like Greek mythology, you're really going to love this because it's kind of hard to keep straight who people are, but not in
Right.
this because we've got certain personas that are associated with each of the characters. And it is an absolute blast. A little violent. So if that bothers you, you might struggle with this one, but it's smart, it's twisted, and it takes Greek mythology and a little bit of history, combines it together to tell a really good story.
How many episodes is it? Do you know?
I want to say it might be 8, but don't quote me on that.
And they're all like under an hour.
Yeah, they're all pretty quick. They might even be like 30 to 45 minutes. So
So being on Netflix, then this is one that you can just sit down and plow through.
yes, you absolutely can. And I'm really bad with that. Like if it's all available, I just watch it all. And if it's not all available, then I'm pissed that I can't watch it all. But when I watch it all, then I'm pissed when it's done because I've watched it all.
You know what?
What?
No problem.
I got a problem. All right, so I want to end this podcast with a Stump Chuck question.
Okay.
My husband and I were so impressed with your knowledge base the other day, and I know that you're going to know the answer to this. And I'm going to ask you, who was the first person to play the Penguin on TV?
Oh, that was Burgess Meredith. Yeah.
It took 1.2 seconds to get. That was perfect.
Yeah. That was, yeah. Yeah, you know, oh, trivia. Here's some trivia for you as far as the Batman TV series.
Okay.
They were about to do a 3rd season, but finances got in the way. But they were going to introduce the villain Two-Face into the 3rd season. And of all people, they had cast Clint Eastwood
Oh my.
as Two-Face on the Batman TV series, which would have been incredible to see. Who knows what it might have done to his or for his career. But,
Exactly.
I always try to picture, you know, the young, thin Clint with the scarred face and the crappy suit on one side and the great suit on the other. It would have been magnificent.
Wow, what would that have done to his career?
Yeah,
You know?
Yeah, so bit of useless trivia there, but you know, woulda, shoulda, coulda, as far as the old Batman TV show.
Fun, fun, fun. Well, that does it for Real Talk with Chuck and Pam. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. As always, we appreciate it. We love your comments. Keep them coming and have a good rest of your week.
Take care.